Have you ever stopped to think about why you wear your watch on a specific wrist? For most people, this is a decision made without much thought, an almost automatic habit. The most common practice is to wear a watch on the left wrist. The primary reason for this is quite simple and very practical. It all comes down to which hand you use the most. The majority of the world's population, around 90%, is right-handed. This means their right hand is their dominant hand, the one they rely on for most of their daily activities, such as writing a note, using a computer mouse, or holding a cup of coffee. It is the hand that does most of the heavy lifting in our lives. By placing a watch on the non-dominant wrist, which is the left wrist for most people, you are instinctively protecting it from the rigors of daily life. Imagine trying to hammer a nail or play a game of tennis. Your dominant hand is in constant, vigorous motion. A watch worn on that wrist would be subjected to countless bumps, scrapes, and potential shocks that could easily damage its delicate internal mechanisms or scratch its crystal face. Keeping the watch on the less active wrist is a simple yet effective strategy to preserve its condition and ensure its longevity. It is a quiet form of risk management that has been practiced for generations, safeguarding a valuable and often sentimental possession. This choice is not just about preventing damage, it is also about pure, unadulterated convenience. When your dominant hand is busy, as it so often is, your non-dominant hand is usually free. This allows for a quick and effortless glance at the time without having to interrupt the task at hand. You can continue writing an important letter, stirring a pot on the stove, or signing a document while seamlessly checking the hour. This small detail greatly improves the user experience, making the act of time-telling a fluid and non-disruptive part of your day. The watch becomes an accessible tool rather than an encumbrance that gets in the way of your work. So the tradition is deeply rooted in a logical understanding of human ergonomics and behavior. It is a silent agreement based on the simple fact that our hands do not share an equal workload. Wearing your watch on the left wrist is a testament to practicality over all else. It is a choice that minimizes risk, maximizes convenience, and allows the timepiece to function as intended. A reliable companion that tells time without interfering with the life you're living. This foundational logic set the stage for a convention that would soon be solidified by major world events and the evolution of watch design itself, turning a practical choice into a global standard. Before the early 20th century, the concept of a man wearing a watch on his wrist was almost unheard of. Wristwatches, or wristlets as they were often called, were considered delicate and ornate pieces of jewelry exclusively for women. A respectable gentleman carried a pocket watch, a weighty and substantial timepiece tucked away in a waistcoat pocket, attached by a chain. It was a symbol of status and punctuality, but it was not particularly practical for situations that required immediate and frequent time checks. Retrieving a pocket watch was a deliberate multi-step process that involved fumbling through layers of clothing, which was far from ideal in many circumstances. This perception changed dramatically with the outbreak of World War I. The nature of trench warfare demanded synchronized movements and precise timing for coordinated attacks, artillery barrages, and troop maneuvers. Soldiers and officers in the muddy, chaotic trenches needed a way to check the time quickly and efficiently, often with one hand while holding a rifle or other equipment in the other. Fumbling for a pocket watch was not just inconvenient, it was dangerously slow. In the life-or-death reality of the battlefield, every second counted, and the pocket watch was simply too cumbersome for the job. An innovation was desperately needed. In response to this critical need, soldiers began strapping their pocket watches to their wrists, using simple leather holders, creating a rudimentary form of the modern wristwatch. This practical, field-made solution allowed them to glance at the time instantly, keeping their hands free for combat. Watchmakers quickly recognized this new demand and began producing purpose-built trench watches. These new timepieces were more rugged than their pocket-sized predecessors, often featuring protective grills over the crystal and luminous dials for visibility in the dark. Worn on the non-dominant left wrist, the watch was kept safer from the brutal conditions of war. When the war ended, and the soldiers returned home, they brought their trench watches with them. The wristwatch, once seen as a feminine accessory, had been transformed into a symbol of masculinity, bravery, and modernity. It was a tool that had proven its worth under the most extreme conditions imaginable. The habit of wearing it on the left wrist, born from the practical necessities of warfare, came home as well. This historical shift cemented the wristwatch as an essential piece of a man's attire and firmly established the left wrist as its conventional home, a tradition that has endured for over a century. The practical habit of wearing a watch on the left wrist had a direct and lasting impact on the very design of the timepieces themselves. Early wristwatches, like their pocket watch ancestors, required daily manual winding to keep the mainspring tensioned and the hands moving accurately. This was a small but essential ritual for any watch owner. To make this process as easy as possible, watchmakers had to consider the ergonomics of the wearer. Since the majority of people were right-handed, it made perfect sense to design the watch to be operated by the right hand. As a result, the winding crown, the small grooved knob used to wind the watch and set the time, was almost universally placed on the right side of the watch case at the 3 o'clock position. This placement is no accident. When a watch is worn on the left wrist, the crown is perfectly positioned to be grasped and manipulated by the thumb and index finger of the right hand. A right-handed person can easily wind their watch or adjust the time without ever needing to take it off. This design choice reinforced the left wrist tradition, creating a feedback loop where practicality influenced design, and design, in turn, reinforced practicality. This design standard has persisted even with massive technological advancements in horology. The invention of automatic or self-winding movements in the 1920s reduced the need for daily winding, as the motion of the wearer's arm would power the watch. Later, the quartz revolution of the 1970s introduced battery-powered watches that required no winding at all. Despite these changes, the placement of the crown has largely remained on the right side of the case. It has become a deeply ingrained design convention, a nod to the mechanical origins of the wristwatch, and a testament to the enduring power of tradition in a world of constant innovation. While the vast majority of watches continue to follow this design, some manufacturers do produce lefty or destro, that's Italian for right, models. These watches have the crown on the left side at the 9 o'clock position and are specifically designed to be worn on the right wrist, allowing a left-handed person the same ergonomic convenience that right-handers have always enjoyed. However, these models remain niche products, a minority in a market that overwhelmingly caters to the established norm. The standard design, intended for a right hand to operate a watch on a left wrist, continues to dominate the industry. In our current era, the function of a watch has evolved significantly. With smartphones, computers, and digital displays surrounding us, a dedicated time-telling device on the wrist is no longer a necessity for knowing the hour. The rise of smartwatches has added new layers of functionality, turning the humble watch into a hub for notifications, fitness tracking, and communication. Yet, despite these technological shifts, the tradition of wearing a watch on the left wrist remains remarkably strong. It persists largely due to habit and the continued, albeit subtle, convenience it offers. It just feels natural for most people. For many today, the decision to wear a watch is less about utility and more about personal expression. A watch is a piece of jewelry, a fashion accessory, and a statement of style. It can communicate a person's appreciation for craftsmanship, a love for vintage design, or an affinity for cutting-edge technology. It can be a status symbol, a family heirloom passed down through generations, or simply a finishing touch to an outfit. In this context, the rules of watch wearing have become much more flexible. The choice of which wrist to wear a watch on is now, more than ever, a matter of personal preference and comfort. While the left wrist standard holds for the right-handed majority, many left-handed individuals have always opted to wear their watches on their right wrist. This follows the same original logic. Keep the watch on the non-dominant, less active arm to protect it and keep it out of the way. Some people simply choose the wrist that feels most comfortable, regardless of their dominant hand. There are no watch police to enforce the old convention, and breaking from tradition can even be a style statement in itself, a subtle way of asserting individuality in a world of conformity. Ultimately, the story of why we wear watches on our left wrist is a fascinating journey through history, practicality, and design. It began with the simple need to protect a valuable tool, was solidified in the crucible of war, and became embedded in the very engineering of the object itself. Today, while the echoes of that tradition still guide the majority, the final decision rests with the wearer. Whether you choose the left wrist or the right. What matters most is that the watch you wear brings you joy, serves its purpose for you, and complements your personal style. The best way to wear a watch is simply your way.